This is a Triple J podcast.
Hey, it's Lucy. I'm quickly jumping in before this week's episode because you might remember a few weeks back I was inviting you on the podcast to submit your not science questions for Dr. Karl. We had a jar at our Science with Dr. Karl live show at the Enmore Theatre, and we were saying to people, submit any question you want for Karl, anything about him, his life, him personally. But what ended up happening was not only did we get those questions, but we also got a hell of a lot of science questions for Dr. Karl. We should have probably foreseen that was going to happen. We didn't get to all of them, so we want to bring them to you right here on the podcast feed. You are going to get 2 exclusive episodes in the next couple of weeks of our jar of not science questions. Scientific, personal, I might even throw some in. I'm excited to get to this, so make sure you subscribe to know when these exclusive episodes are going to drop. All right, let's get to this week's. The conversation this week has been about feeling summer in the air, the end of winter. We talked about what that was. We got into evolution and the reason for it. And we also got into black holes, freckles, and the best way to cook sweet potatoes. And eggs. We got to that too. All right, let's jump in. Dr. Karl, how you doing?
Very good. I've suddenly become a star on Bulgarian radio.
What do you mean?
Radio TV. And it was weird. So I'm doing these regular segments with Bulgarian TV. And they said, it's so good to do science with you because science is something that everybody respects. And I suddenly thought, wow, they're in a part of the world where they see the benefits of science, the vaccines, the antibiotics, the emphasis on clean drinking water, whereas other people are saying, vaccines don't work and climate change isn't real. And it was refreshing to go and work with them, which then is a seamless segue into the fact that the ABC is celebrating the longest-running science show in the whole universe, the science show with Robin Williams, beginning 50 years ago, who's had some remarkable interest. Like the Australia back then didn't really acknowledge that it actually had any science, or that Indigenous people had been here for any length of time. And they helped bring that forward, as well as doing a few spoofs along the way, like the ancient beer can, several thousand years old. And they apparently, when there was a royal child being born somewhere in the last 50 years, they did a study on when the property called royalty infused into the growing embryo and proclaimed that there was some science on it and a whole bunch of other fun stuff. Anyway, so just congratulations to the ABC for hosting the longest running science show in the entire known universe.
Yeah, they've got some highlights as well if you want to check them out via the ABC Listen app. The Science Show with Robin Williams. Congratulations, celebrating 50 years. And the first 3 stories were broadcast on August 30, 1975. So sweet. Hey, Dr. Karl, are you ready to get into some questions?
To the audience.
Let's do it. We've got Dale in Pascoe Vale right now. Dale, you got a question about eggs.
Dr. Dale,
I do.
welcome.
I eat a lot of boiled eggs. Why are they sometimes easy to peel and other times not?
It's to do mainly with the freshness.
Right.
So it's kind of saying don't have fresh eggs, which is kind of sad, but the enzymes that make the body of the egg stick to the inner part of the shell degrade with time. And so there are arguments for having less fresh eggs. Or you can put them through a temperature change. So you just chuck them in the hot water. You boil the water and you just drop them into the hot water, then you take them out and you put them under cold water. And that can sometimes make them easy to peel.
Yeah, sometimes. But that's why I asked the question, because not necessarily. And I've tried 4 eggs, boiled them, then plunged them in cold water, and 3 peeled fine, and the 4th didn't. So,
it might be a different age. You see,
yeah.
I don't know. Some people talk about it having salt or baking soda. I don't think it makes much difference.
Okay.
But I still find it almost a miracle that you can have this white gloopy stuff and yellow gloopy stuff, and over a period of 10 weeks it turns into a bird with a beak and eyeballs and down. Hail to science.
But I know what you mean, Dale. There's nothing worse when you go to peel it and then you just got all those fiddly little bits that you're trying to navigate.
You don't want to waste them.
Absolutely.
And then you get a little teaspoon and you try to rescue them off because you don't want to create waste.
But also shout out to Dale as well, doing the experiment on 4 different eggs. having a go.
Thanks, guys.
Good on you, Dr. Dale.
So what's the deal, Dr. Karl? It comes down to time, the age of the egg, but the jury's kind of out on this one?
Mostly the age of the egg, and it seems kind of wrong to deliberately want to have an older egg. Yeah, I know. It's hard. Life's not perfect.
We've got Kai on Avoca Beach here. Kai, you got a question about our skin.
Yeah, I just want to know, doctor, why am I covered in freckles like all over and a lot of people aren't?
It's to do with the melanin. We don't have a good explanation for it. So if you imagine a cobblestone street or a street made of bricks, and every 100th one is different, and it's got little tentacles. So you got normal skin cells, they're the cobblestones, and then every 100th one roughly is a melanocyte, and it has little tentacles that reach out between all the other ones, and it pumps out a chemical called melanin, which should then evenly diffuse itself into the actual cell. So it travels via these little tentacles between the cells and into all the other regular skin cells, and they pick up this melanin, and so they become what you call tanned if you get regular skin exposure. And so you're asking the question of, how come I don't get an even tan and look glorious, and rather instead I get these stupid freckles, and I don't have a good answer for that. So we need a dermatologist to tell us what exactly is the clumping mechanism, such that you build up these freckles, and in some occasions, these freckles rarely can be a precancerous state, way down the line. I don't understand that. What's the magic number? 04 something. I should remember this. I've done it. Asked you more than once. I'm writing it down. Okay.
0439 757 555. If you can text in and maybe get to the bottom. Hang on, you just got it wrong. Hang on.
04
39 75 75.
757 is an aeroplane. Working on it. I'll work out a mnemonic. Somebody sent me one. I've forgotten it.
Oh my gosh. If you're listening right now, you might have just been a part of history. Dr. Karl, beginning the steps to learn the Triple J text line number. Kai, let's see what we can do with this one, okay?
Okay.
All right,
Yeah,
we've got
I'm
James
sorry.
is Cessnock here. Now, James, before you get into your question, tell us what you've noticed.
Well, we've actually had some PowerPoints where some ants have got in behind them and they just destroy the PowerPoint to the point where it just keeps on shorting out. And recently I've noticed they're actually in our main switch box, and there's just thousands of them in there, just little black ants.
Okay, so you mean the PowerPoint, the one in the wall that might have one or two sockets and a switch on it, and you shove your... Okay. In general, they are... I'll have some of my special liquid here. Yum. Anyway, in general, they're not attracted to voltage as such, but rather they're attracted to the warmth. And so I learned some of this from some of my Sparky mates, that when you install the power point in the wall, when you screw the wires in, and then you put the wires into the little receptacles and you screw them up tight with a screw, so you got your active, your neutral and your earth, really, you should come back about a month later and take them all off and retighten them, because they've gone through a few heating contraction cycles as the electricity goes through them. They're not perfect conductors, so there's a bit of heating, and so you tighten them up a bit extra. But regardless of that, the point is that there's heat there associated with it. Copper is not a perfect conductor. And if you've got something that's drawing a fair bit of energy, say 10 amps or 2400 watts, like a 2-bar radiator, that will create heat there, and the ants are attracted to the heat. Not so much in power points, but rather more in the power board, where you've got a lot more circuits going up and on. So with these power points, you're saying that the ants are attracted to them, and in some cases their bodies shorted out the connections?
Yeah. When I first started in this job, we had one particular PowerPoint that just always had dead ants under it. And when I unscrewed it to have a look behind it, it was just like a ball of dead ants on this PowerPoint, and they were like zapping themselves and sort of falling out the holes of the PowerPoint. And this is a PowerPoint that was never used, so like it's never had anything plugged into it.
What? Now that's really surprising, because I would have thought, the conventional thinking being, that they don't have a special electromagnetic sensitivity, but rather are drawn to the heat or to pheromones or chemicals left by previous ants. But you're saying it's let me get this straight. This was a totally unused PowerPoint that just happened to be there and nobody ever used it.
Correct.
Wow. Are you a Sparky?
No.
But okay, we'll stop right there. So I'm thinking that perhaps the ants do have an electromagnetic sensitivity, but it's and that's all I can say about it. We came across a case with bees recently where the experiment was done in the United Kingdom where they tried to mimic an overhead power line in the sense of 500,000 volts, big towers where they mow the grass underneath, so you just got this flat grass maybe 50 metres wide and it just runs for kilometres. And they tried to mimic that, so they had a situation where one species of bees were going near a specific flower and they set up something that would mimic the high power line, and they found that for the first 10 minutes the bees just avoided doing their regular thing of going and getting nectar from the plants, right? Now, on one hand, we're very sure that the radiation coming from a power line is not ionising. It doesn't cause cancer. We haven't seen it do behavioural changes. And the behaviour was that at first the bees would not get their nectar for 10 minutes, and by about 2 hours they were kind of back to normal, and we don't know what happened after that. So this is just a first study. So that's a hint that these creatures have electromagnetic sensitivity, and maybe some species of ants do, in which case it's groundbreaking. Wow, definitely don't know.
Thanks, James.
Wow.
Okay, cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Wow.
Now,
He's opened a can of worms there.
We had the question about the boiled eggs. Now, we don't necessarily have an answer, but a lot of people are giving hacks on how they get through this. Yeah, Gord in Warrington, you said run the boiled egg under cold water, empty the water. Shake in the saucepan or a mug to break shell into tiny pieces. Then cover with cold water and peel underwater. Sometimes the shell just slips off in one go. Best hack ever.
Yes, that will work, but make sure you have the egg straight away, because the egg has roughly 17,000 holes in it, and if the water has bacteria in it, which is not the case in Australia, we're very lucky, there have been cases where the bacteria can be drawn through the 17,000 holes in the eggshell into the egg, which is then stored in the open for a week or so, and then the bacteria can grow. That's very, very unlikely.
So eat your boiled egg immediately?
Yeah, basically eat it straight away. Or if you've got to eat it later, just let it cool down in the fridge or something like that, not in water.
So many hacks this morning. Dr. Karl.
Actually, have you found that you're now running your life on hacks? Like I used to be.
PSAs, yeah.
Once upon a time, when I had something go wrong with my computer, I would go, okay, this is what's wrong. Okay, they've done this with the software. Now I know what's going on. But the trouble is they change the software so frequently that after you've invested the 2 hours to work out what went wrong and why, the knowledge you've got is useless because now they've updated the software to something else. Mm-hmm. And so I'm finding myself in the unfortunate emotional situation of relying on workarounds rather than understanding what's going on.
The hacks are ever changing. Exactly. Relying on workarounds.
My God. It's a crazy world, man.
Dr. Karl, we had a question about ants being attracted to 240-volt electricity. Mm-hmm. A lot of people texting in on 0439 757 555. Someone saying we had to move from a house in the Northern Territory because tiny brown ants ate all the electrics, computers, children's clothing, all the wiring in the car. Someone saying ants love to eat conformal coating that's generally found to waterproof PCB boards and various electrical components.
I guess it's a case of anything that they can eat to survive, they will. There is one other problem with Australian wiring is that for a while a bad cable was sold. It's called Infinity cable. It's no longer sold, and it's installed some 40,000 kilometres in houses around Australia, and the various master electrician associations tried to get warning notes put on the boards, these power boards of those houses, which was blocked. And the situation is that you've got this hard wiring, not flexible wiring like you have on a, say, dishwasher. No, it's not a dishwasher, but say a hairdryer. You don't have flexible wiring. You've got hard, stiff wiring, and not multi-core, but just a single fat wire. And it goes around a corner and is buried in your house, and it just stays there. And it relies on the integrity of the plastic to stop the active from touching the neutral. And it's made of a plastic that's going to degrade, and they're seeing fires now. And for some reason, it's been the move by the master builders to have this warning put on the power boards wasn't put on. So we might see some little fires in houses over the next few years from this Infinity cable.
Okay. Well,
This has been a PSA.
yeah.
But a sad one,
absolutely.
sorry.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something to keep your eye on if you've got a question about that. 0439 757 555. Let's take it to the universe now. Chris in Colroy, what's your question?
Hello, doctors.
Dr. Chris, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much for taking my question. It's to do with black holes.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson, also a long-time fan of Carl Sagan.
Yeah. You've picked the good ones there. Great ones. Good on you.
The more you think you know, the less you know. But it's to do with information being sucked into black holes. And I kind of can't quite get my head around that. I can understand particles and maybe photons, light, but information, it was something that was mentioned, and I just wondered whether that was anything that you're able to enlighten us on, Dr. Karl.
Okay, so information is a real quantity. Look up Claude Shannon, CLAUDE and one big problem with black holes is that stuff goes in, and as far as we know, doesn't come out, and information is actually a real quantity. You can't put it in a jar, like you can't put love or hunger into a jar, but nevertheless, information is real. And can they suck in information? Well, the stuff that goes into them has information and then is lost, and the problem is you can't destroy information. There's various rules on that, and that's one of the big problems we have with black holes. So people have been trying different ways of looking at black holes and trying to work out this paradox, the information paradox. Maybe the best answer comes from way back in 1935-34, when Einstein, who was a brilliant thinker, teamed up with a brilliant mathematician called Rosen, and they wrote a paper about what we today call black holes. The term hadn't been invented then. And they said that these objects, this is the best translation that we can get from the original German, these objects, black holes, are not singular. Like a pen is singular to me. I can drop the pen and it's not related to me at all, and it can just vanish. But they're saying that Einstein said with Rosen via the mathematics, they're not singular. And then they talk about Einstein-Rosen bridges, which today we kind of think of as wormholes. So with regard to black holes, we're very convinced that they exist because of research coming to us from the Hubble Space Telescope and certain observations we made. But wormholes or Einstein-Rosen bridges have never been proven to exist. So this problem that you're talking about, the information paradox, it's a problem that hasn't been solved. We don't have an answer to it. But we know that black holes exist.
Is it perhaps the definition of information that might be a bit puzzled on? Yeah.
It's all up for grabs, and almost certainly there will be a few Nobel Prizes coming out of it. So you've touched on a big topic. Maybe you want to have a career change and do first-year physics and then turn into a cosmologist and win a Nobel Prize in 20 years from now or something.
Oh, mate, that'd be great. I'm not sure if I've got enough brain cells left for that, but yeah.
I was going to ask, Chris, you got time for that one?
It's time and curiosity and intensity. The average IQ of Nobel Prize winners is about 115, 120, and you've got 2/3 of the population between 85 and 115. So Nobel Prize winners are smarter than average, but they're not brilliant smart. And by the way, if anybody says their IQ is 160, they're lying, because IQ tests don't go that high. Just thought I'd get it off my chest.
Ah.
Okay. And for some reason, they always choose 160. And the psychologists roll their eyes and they tell me, hey, Karl, if you know such and such a person said their IQ is 160, they're lying.
All right, we've got Alex in Newcastle here. Dr. Alex, what's your question?
Hi, doctors. I just got a question about vaping. I'm curious as to how you vape, it comes into your throat, the smoke is like cold feeling, if that makes sense, when it's being burnt by an element, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so vaping begins about 30 years ago when some guy wanted to have what he thought would be a less harmful way of getting tobacco into his body. I think it was for a family relative. I think it was somebody in China. I've forgotten the exact details. And then what happened was that it lay quiet for a while, and then the tobacco companies saw it as a bait and switch method. So bait and switch is when you're walking past a store and it says, hey, this thing is on special, and the number is, it's 1% of the normal price. And you think, 1%? I didn't really want one, but 1% is good. And you go in and say, oh, we haven't got that model that you want. We've only got this thing in this colour, blah, blah, blah. And you're already inside the store, and having baited you into the store, they then switch you into buying something else, right? And so there were a whole lot of things coming out about tobacco being bad, which the tobacco companies denied even until 10 years ago. And so they came up with the idea of, let's use this invention called vaping. And what vaping does is turn it into an aerosol. It doesn't burn it. You have a liquid. And so you get mist. You do not get fine particles like particulate matter. The two types are PM10, 10 micrometers, PM particulate matter, and PM 2.5. You don't have particles coming in. You just get this mist. So if you see somebody vaping, they vape out and then it just vanishes. And so the molecules of suspended liquid have just gone into the environment. And what's happening is that there's very little mass in it, and so it cools down very quickly. So all it has to do is travel through the air, and it's got the advantage of speed. So if you close your lips and blow through a thin hole on your lips onto your hand, you'll feel it cool. That sort of thing is happening. It's coming out of a narrow hole and then expanding, so it loses heat. Plus, it's got hardly any mass. It also cools down very rapidly. And overall, the argument is against not having vaping, and my GP was telling me the other day that she can pick a vapor by the vaping cough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the people say, oh, I haven't got any symptoms at all. I've got this cough, but I haven't got any symptoms. The cough is the first symptom. But there's no long-term effects, sure, because we haven't had people vaping for 30 years. And that's how long it took for lung cancer to develop. So I know it's hard. It is an addictive drug. If you can give it up, that's good. I'm sorry to give you the moral message, sorry.
That's all right. Love your work, guys. Thank you very much.
We just want you to live longer and have a happier life and have more money. That's all we want for you.
That's it, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
We've got Bailey in Albury here. Bailey, a question about sweet potato.
Hey, Doggy Karls, buddy. Long time listener, first time caller.
Yay.
When you cook sweet potato, why does it take longer in the oven as opposed to when you boil it?
Yeah, and the oven is hotter. The boiling is only 100 degrees C, but the oven is up at, say, 150. Two factors. Firstly, the heat conduction of water is much better than the heat conduction of air. So you can walk around in your swimming cozies in 15-degree air and think, oh, yeah, I'm in 15-degree air. It's not that bad. It's okay. In fact, we had this weird experience with my brother-in-law when he was in Germany. And he rang us up saying, oh, my God, it's got so hot. It's got the 15 degrees C that everybody's going into the parks and taking off their clothes because it's so warm. And we in Sydney were going, oh, my God, it's so cold. It's dropped to 15 degrees. Okay, but the point is, and we're putting on clothes, 15 degrees in air, you can walk around, you're thinking, oh, yeah, it's 15 degrees. Yeah, I'm cool. Or hot if you're in Germany. Jump into 15-degree water and the heat just travels off you and you're going, oh, my God, that's a little bit cold. So that's the first factor, that the water is better transferring heat, which more than compensates for the higher air temperature. The air temperature is 150, not 100, but it's not very good at transmitting the heat. The second factor that happens is that as the sweet potato cooks, it releases water vapour. And that helps cool it down. Those two factors together take it longer to cook. But I do love baked sweet potato.
So do I.
I love baked sweet potato. It's just gorgeous.
My favourite method of eating the sweet potato. What about you, Bailey?
Yeah, it's better, a lot crunchier.
But I do go to the trouble of I cut the potatoes or sweet potatoes all into the same size chunks. So that way there's not some that are perfect and some that are not perfect. I try to make them all perfect. And then I pre-nuke them for about 10 minutes, the whole plate, just to get the inner temperature up. So that way they can be ready for the hungry, starving family sooner. And they're all the same and they're all delicious. You got to keep an eye on it and then turn them over and add the oil and the pepper and all that stuff. Oh, it's so simple but so beautiful.
God, we talked about cooking eggs. We've talked about cooking sweet potato. Bailey, thanks so much for your question.
Thank you.
We are doing Science with Dr. Karl. Sean from Terrigal texting in saying, good morning, I'm currently riding my bike across the Nullarbor listening to Dr. Karl.
Across the Nullarbor?
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
My God, because I remember the last time I was going across the Nullarbor, all I could pick up was the most powerful radio station on earth, which is a Christian radio station in the Andes, and this is late at night, and so I'm trotting along at the top speed of my four-wheel drive, which is about 80 kilometres an hour, and all I could hear was just this series of parables. There was this man, and he got a knife, and he came to this woman, and he cut out her tummy. That man was like Jesus Christ, and he repaired her appendix. And if you want to find salvation, you too must listen to the word of Jesus Christ. And then, one at a time, for about 5 hours, it compared Jesus Christ to every single trade you could think of. There was a person, and in their house, and take it away. So I'm glad they've got better connectivity.
Well, you know who else answered our questions?
Whom?
Jesus.
Yahoo! Come on down.
And Dr. Karl. We are doing it right here on Triple J. Jeremy on the Sunshine Coast. What do you want to ask Karl?
It's a two-part question. I'm an underground coal miner, and I want to know how they turn the coal that I mine into steel, and is it always going to be coal-making steel that makes steel? Do they have another way of creating steel? Is my industry going to last forever?
There's got to be a fair transition so that you don't suddenly get thrown out onto work. You get thrown out of work onto the scrap heap. Have you got a pencil and paper there with you, Dr. Jeremy?
I do not right now.
Okay, so I'll just read this out for the audience. Write it down. We're giving. Do people still have pencils? Okay, type it into your device. So FeO plus C gives you CO2 plus heat. So what happens is you get some iron oxide. So Australia has these massive mountains of iron oxide over on the left-hand side in Western Australia. And the wind blows across them and has eroded them down, which is why the outback of Australia is red. That's rust. That's iron oxide. The trouble is you've got iron oxide. You want to get rid of the oxygen. And so the way we've been doing it for a few thousand years is a remarkably elegant method. You get some iron oxide and you sort of pound it with a rock to make it a fine powder. You get some coal and you bang that with a hammer to make it a fine powder, and you mix them together and nothing happens. And then you add a bit of heat. You blow hot air through them, and when you get to a certain stage, suddenly the reaction kicks in. The coal, the carbon, grabs the oxygen off the iron and turns it into carbon dioxide, and you're left with relatively pure iron, and you get a huge amount of heat, and then you don't ever have to add any more heat. You just keep on tipping in the powdered iron oxide, the powdered coal. And when I was working at the steelworks, while I was there, blast furnace number 5 for one day held the world record of the most iron made by any blast furnace anywhere in the world. And those blast furnaces will run for 5 years.
Wow.
You just keep on tipping iron oxide and coal. The coal grabs the oxygen off the iron, and it generates heat. Mate, it's a wonderful reaction, apart from the carbon dioxide, which is 8% of the world's carbon dioxide.
Wow.
But in Sweden, a company has already swung into action, and what they do is they get FeO, iron oxide, and instead of adding carbon, they add hydrogen. So you get water, you get renewable electricity from the sun, and then you break the water into hydrogen oxide. So you get iron oxide plus hydrogen gives you water and then heat. And if you can make steel without burning any carbon, you will have to... you can make iron. What is steel? Steel is iron with between 0.2 and 2% carbon. Yeah, depending on how you vary the carbon and other elements. Steel is such a wondrous material with so many properties. And so they've not only made steel without burning any carbon, they then use that steel to make mining tip trucks, and Volvo, or one of the other big companies over there, has electric battery-powered mining trucks that run off renewables. So they've gone all the way from turning iron oxide into a useful product, and at no stage is carbon involved in terms of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So Germany, yes, coal should go away because global warming is real, but there should be a fair transition, not just throwing people out of work. But there is
there
an
you go.
alternative.
Thanks,
That was
Jeremy.
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We got Grace in Wagga Wagga. Dr. Grace, I love this question. What do you want to know?
Good morning. I was just wondering that why when you use nice smelling hand cream, your hands absorb it, but when you use deep heat on your sore leg or sore shoulder, your hands don't seem to absorb it and therefore they don't start to burn. So I was just wondering why this is.
Oh, my God, you have blown my mind. I was about to say, well, obviously it's because your hands are work areas. Okay, I'll get rid of the deep voice. And then you build up a layer of keratin, which reduces the absorption. But you raised a really important point. Can you just say that point again about the hand cream?
Yeah, for sure. So, for example, my mum just bought me some really nice hand lotion from the Body Shop. Smells divine. Hands smell nice for like an hour after. But then I've hurt my leg, rubbing deep heat into it. I'm like, oh, they don't burn or smell. Like, I just don't understand.
Oh, I think you gave me a hint. The hands smell nice for an hour. How long does the face and other softer skin smell nice for?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Hours? Yeah.
Yeah, potentially. I guess you get used to it.
But it's hand lotion, so it's only going into the hands. You know what I mean? So she's not rubbing it that in.
Okay, so the question I'm asking, I'll now ask a different question to try and salvage my fast-falling reputation. Suppose you're putting on face cream onto your face, you rub it into your hands, so you'll smell it on your hands for, I'm hoping you'll say a little while, but longer on your face. I'm trying to head towards that maybe the skin on your hands is thicker and doesn't absorb as much. But then why does it absorb virtually none of the deep heat? Like I can get the various type of menthol type rubs and just rub them in, and you can get a decent heat, and you're feeling your skin go, wow, you rub really fast and you can feel a decent heat. But you don't feel it on your hands. I don't know. I think the number is 0439757555, what I wrote down.
No, it's so interesting. You've raised such a good point, Grace.
I think it'd be a dermatologist, but also somebody who works in that, do you call it the beauty industry, the facial cream industry? What's the generic name? Yeah, for chemistry, but it has to be somebody who does it with the human body.
Yeah,
somebody who works with the cream industries. Because after all, thanks to them, I learnt the new word volumize as associated with hair shampoo, which I didn't know existed as a word. So almost certainly there'll be knowledge that they will give us if they ring on 0439757555.
If you text in, don't ring, you'll get a deadline.
Read that.
We've got Lily on the Gold Coast. Dr. Lily, you've got a hypothetical. Hit it.
Morning. I was just wondering if every single person jumped at the exact same time, would it affect the Earth's rotation at all?
This experiment was done by XKCD, who is actually called Ranald Munro. And he used to be a NASA engineer, and he deliberately chose the website XKCD because it would sound really... It'd be impossible to say. You had to spell it out. And he actually tried answering this question. And the thing is that if you had it happening all around the world, wherever people were, you wouldn't be able to pick it up with a seismometer, which is the machines that the geologists use for picking up vibrations in the earthquakes. Oh, by the way, the original seismometer was supposedly a Chinese set of 4 frogs, each with delicately balanced balls in their mouths, and it was supposed to vibrate and tell you which direction the earthquake came from. And so the Chinese are now trying to build a model of that to see if that actually happened. Getting back to jumping up and down, in California, they were able to pick up people jumping up and down at a Taylor Swift concert.
Wow. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but just barely. Very low level, they could pick up vibrations. It didn't shake your house. It didn't make your buildings fall over or cars rock around, but they could pick it up with their delicate seismometers. And the next KCD said, okay, we can't have this around the world because the local vibrations just don't add up and the surface area of the world is too much. Let's try to stick them all into one place. And he worked out you could stick them into somewhere in America called Rhode Island, and that you would pick up something on the seismometers, but then you couldn't possibly get all those people in and out, and you'd get maybe a 10% death rate. And so he thought it was a bad experiment to do. So to answer your question, yes, you can pick it up with a seismometer, but it wouldn't cause any harm to any natural structures or artificial structures that we've built. Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, that's exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got Connor in Sydney. Now, Dr. Connor, we were talking about this earlier in the week, the first signs that winter is over, that maybe spring or summer is starting. What's yours?
So, hey guys, long-time listener, first-time caller. I had a question due to the smell of summer and how what we're actually smelling and why we only smell it in summer and not hot winter days. If it is something to do with the heat, I recently met someone who just moved to Australia and he can't smell anything. He doesn't know what I'm talking about when summer's coming around.
Well, I was listening to Luca and Conchetta in the morning. Did you know there is a food item called a lasagna toasty?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
No, I haven't
Take
heard
it
of
away.
it.
Yeah. Incredible.
So some people were judging the departure of winter by the fact that their local corner shop or foodie place would not sell a lasagna toaster. I was trying to work out, do you start off with some basically carbohydrate, which is lasagna, you heat it up, and then you shove it on a slab of carbohydrate, which is called bread, and then you put another one over it and you toast it, or do you have to add butter to it or cheese?
Who knows?
I've never had one, but for that reason alone, I want to have one.
Absolutely. But what do you think that is, that kind of smell, that haze,
okay.
when you know that summer is coming?
Okay, so firstly, I was just down in Victoria recently, and they said that they think due to global warming is the vines for growing grapes and the wattles are 1.5 months early. 1.5 months. Wow. That's serious. Secondly, you're getting the warmer temperatures and you're getting... But even if you don't have the warmer temperatures, the plants are on their program from what they've learned over the previous years. And so they're putting out their smells, they're attracting the insects, they're attracting the birds. You've got the sun-warmed wood, you've got the resinous scents from the trees. In general, in summer, when it actually does happen, you've got a higher humidity. So in winter, it's drier and people are more likely to build up electric sparks as they walk around inside the house. But in summer, it's more humid. And that drains away the electricity. But more importantly, you've got, with that increased humidity, you've got the increased evaporation of moisture from the soil. You also get that weird smell associated with rain called petrichor. And then people are outside having barbecues and they're opening the windows of the house and suddenly you're smelling the roast pork. And then people are around themselves. And so the swimming pools are open. So it's just extra activity in this higher humidity environment.
Dr. Karl, earlier we had a question about why we can rub hand lotion into our hands, but we can't rub deep, get the benefits it absorbs, but deep heat doesn't rub into our hands. Yes.
But your leg gets hot, but your hands do not. What's going on?
Someone's saying palms of the hands don't have VR1 receptors. Isabel backing it up, saying deep heat doesn't absorb as well as moisturiser because it's not greasy, but moisturiser is.
Okay, so VR1 stands for vanilloid receptors, and they're the receptors that you have on your tongue for heat, which are accidentally triggered by capsaicin.
Someone's saying, think of it as a protective layer that deep heat doesn't easily penetrate. And Tom, you said no pores on your palms.
But you're sweating through... Hang on, I want to go back to that. Thank you, Tom. Can somebody send us the link for the VR1 receptor? I love the vanilloid 1 receptors. Okay. Oh, wow. What a lovely audience we have. Thank you, audience. We love you.
Everyone coming through.
Thank you, Tom.
Lyle in Swansea, what is your question?
What you got for us, Dr. Lyle?
Hey, I just wanted to know, I guess, what the driving force behind evolution is. I guess sort of, I want to know, I can understand sometimes how it's bred out, but how does like an animal become a particular colour, or, like a leopard or a tiger change its fur, or like even a Venus flytrap? How does that know to send out that pheromone to be able to attract a fly and eat it?
Two-part answer. Number one, babies. So evolution is all about having babies. And so if whatever sort of creature you are, be it a Venus flytrap, a blue whale, or a wolf, if you don't have babies, you've failed. So you've got to have babies. You've got to have the next generation. Bacteria can do it every 20 minutes. Other creatures like the elephant take, I think, 2 or 3 years to have a baby. And when Darwin talked about survival of the fittest, he didn't mean the biggest muscles like Arnold Schwarzenegger, my hero, but rather more babies. That's the first part. The second part is this: nature is bloody in tooth and claw. Bad things happen in nature. Creatures get eaten. Creatures die. It doesn't. The driving force seems to be babies. And so if you have a Venus flytrap that does not make the pheromones, because of a gene mutation, it will die of starvation and it won't have any ancestors, any descendants. And so you have the combination of the driving force of evolution being babies, and then secondly, random mutations all over the place. So each time a cell divides, in the case of a human, you've got 3 million bits of information that have to be copied exactly, and almost certainly sometimes there's a mistake. And that can lead to different creatures. And how you get into the eyeball, that's a different story.
Wow, there you go.
Thanks, Lyle. And quickly before we get out of here, Jonesy on the Sunshine Coast, what do you want to know?
Dr. Jonesy, welcome.
Thank you. Hey, I want to know, why do my dog and other dogs can stick their heads out the car window at 100 Ks, but you can't blow in their face?
Okay. Where they're really susceptible is air coming straight up their nostrils, because they've got a very sensitive system for breathing, and air going into your eyeballs, which, if you get into a windy situation, it can really dry your eyes out quickly. And if you blow in their face, they've got no control over the situation. You might be blowing from this angle or that angle, but when they stick their head out the window, they're picking up a whole bunch of smells, which is a lot of fun, but they angle their face so that the air blast into their eyes and nose is minimised. They'll tilt themselves around at just a certain angle, and you can do the slightly cruel experiment of sit in the back seat with them and just try to nudge their head at a different angle, and they'll go, no, I'm going to shift it back here. And it's not much, it's only a few degrees, but they position their head so that they avoid that blast into their eyes and nose.
Ah, that's right.
And they get all those extra rich smells, which they love, because they've got 150 mils of smelling area in their olfactory epithelium. We have 5.
Jonesy, thanks so much for your question.
Thank you, Dr. Jonesy.
And that's it for Science with Dr. Karl. Dr. Karl.
It went so quickly.
So quickly. I won't be with you next week.
You'll be off partying.
I'm off partying. I'm off relaxing. I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks. Jamie Taylor-Nielsen is filling in, so I'll catch you in a little while, but we'll do this again next week.
Oh, we'll try and struggle without you.
That's it.
We'll send you little notes on how good things are going and how they're really good, but not as good as if you were here. Something like that.
Stop. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Science with Dr. Karl. And if you want to check out our live show that went down at the Enmore Theatre, one night only, we have it up for you in full over on Triple J's YouTube channel. Just head to youtube.com/Triple J, Science with Dr. Karl Live, Part 1 and 2. We'll chuck a link for you in the show notes as well. But it was so much fun, and you can be there, you can relive it in spirit right now, whenever you like. I'm Lucy Smith. This episode was produced by Josh Brennan, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.
Dave Marchese here from the Triple J Hack team. Hey, if you love Dr. Karl's podcast like I do, you might enjoy the Hack podcast as well. Each day we bring you the news that matters to you, from the latest science on climate change to what's happening in politics and news around the world. The Hack podcast. It's your daily fix of the news you need to know. Get it wherever you're listening now.